Using public transport every day, Frank did not even suspect that he would meet the love of his life there. At that time, he was working in a steel mill and usually came back home late from his shift. That day, the young man was very tired, so he fell asleep on the bus. He would have missed his stop if he had not been woken up by a young girl. "I think it's time for you to get off," she said. "Thank you, but how did you know?" The young man was surprised. The girl explained that this was not the first time she was traveling with him on this bus. After exchanging a few words, they felt sympathy for each other. The very next day, she walked Samantha home. So young people began to date, and 6 months later, they got married. Soon their daughter Nadia was born. When the girl was 4 years old, Samantha fell ill. And although Frank insisted that she go to the clinic, the woman refused, referring to the fact that she could not leave her little daughter. However, after a few days, her condition became worse, and she died. This was a real shock to Frank and little Nadia. After the death of his wife, the man began to work even harder at the factory in order to provide his daughter with everything necessary. Once, when he was driving to work, a pale, thin boy of about 8 approached him. "Sir, could you give me $30? I'm very hungry," he asked Frank. The man took pity on the child and emptied his wallet. He also gave him the sandwiches he had made for dinner. "Thank you very much. I will definitely pay you back," the boy whispered. Frank smiled, patted him on the shoulder, and got off the bus. So 10 years passed. The man made a career at the factory, and his salary doubled. He bought Nadia a bike, and she started riding around with her friends. One day, while trying to overtake her classmate, the girl lost control and fell off her bike. She couldn't get up on her own. Passers-by called an ambulance and reported the incident to her father. At the hospital, Frank found out that Nadia had a spinal fracture and most likely she would not be able to walk. But an operation at another clinic, which cost more than $100,000, could help her. Of course, Frank did not have that kind of money. A month later, Nadia was discharged from the hospital. She had to learn to ride in a wheelchair and live the life of a disabled person. A few more years passed. All this time, Frank was desperately trying to find money for his daughter's operation. As for Nadia, she had turned into a charming young woman. And then one day, when the man lost all hope, there was a knock on his house. Having opened the door, Frank saw a well-dressed young man. It turned out that it was the same boy who had asked him for $30 many years ago. Frank invited him in. The guy's name was Mike. In the living room, he saw Nadia in a wheelchair. He told the father and the daughter that he had sworn to thank Frank for his kindness, and now, having achieved success in life, he found him. After learning about Nadia's problems, Mike decided to pay for the girl's operation. A month after, Nadia took her first steps. For the first time in many years, Frank was weeping with happiness.